A live look from outside the Capitol building tonight is President Biden just delivering his 2023 State of the Union address. It, of course, wrapped up less than an hour ago.
As we gather here tonight, we're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility.
President Biden speaking on several topics during that speech tonight, among them the state of the nation's economy. The president also addressing the debt ceiling and the fight to tame inflation. The president gave examples of both sides of the aisle working together during his term, but he also asked for just a little bit more tonight.
And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well. You all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting, power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours.
Now, the president also touched on several projects happening here in Ohio, including the Intel factory in Licking County and the Brent Spence Bridge.
This law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River, built 60 years ago, badly needed repairs, one of the nation's most congested freight routes, carrying $2 billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio River. And folks, I've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done.
Well, we want to help put the president's address in perspective now. We are joined live tonight by Cedarville University Professor of History and Law, Dr. Mark Clausen. Mark, thanks so much for being with us tonight. There's a lot of different storylines, a lot of different points made in the speech tonight that we could touch on. I want to ask you first, what were your impressions of the speech? Any surprises for you?
Well, no. The only real surprise was that he literally almost threw everything but the kitchen sink into the speech. He addressed so many potential policy issues, so many potential proposals, so much potential legislation. I thought he would narrow himself a little bit more, and that does kind of diffuse the whole purpose of a speech like that. But overall, I also thought it was relatively effective. There was energy in the speech. There were a couple of gaffes. So I'll give him credit for that. So some energetic speech making there.
He's dealing with a split Congress the next couple of years, and you couldn't help but notice the civility off the top of that speech. The tone kind of shifted then as that speech went on. There were some barbs yelled by people in the congressional area there. What did you make about the tonal shift throughout the speech there?
Well, yeah, he started out by looking to bipartisanship. He invoked the bipartisan nature of his proposals and laws that have passed. And of course, there was bipartisanship to a certain extent. You have to be careful about defining that term because it wasn't nearly all the Republicans, but still there was some degree of bipartisanship. So that was good as long as that lasted. But then when he got into issues that were more sensitive to the Republicans, then at that point, of course, a few of the Republicans, at least the more vocal ones, are not willing to just sit by and listen to that. They felt that they had to respond. Whether that was appropriate or not, that's another question. But you certainly could see that kind of thing coming from some of them.
And Mark, jobs featured prominently throughout the early course of that speech tonight. Talked about the most jobs created in the last 2 years than in any 4 years before his administration. Is that accurate in your eyes, or is it a little more complicated than that?
Yeah, you got to be really careful about a statement like that. I think he was a bit disingenuous on this. There were a lot of jobs on the ledger. In other words, they appeared on paper. But the issue was, why did they come? Well, a lot of them came back because of post-COVID situations. People were rehiring. So you have to separate those jobs out, and you have to wonder how many jobs were actually really new from a revitalized economy. And because of inflation and because of the sort of possibility of recession even ahead, I'm not sure that jobs report is as optimistic as he makes it out to be.
Mark, quickly, before we let you go, there was a lot of talk of domestic issues, as we mentioned. China was barely mentioned in this speech, it seemed like to me. Ukraine as well. What did you make of that, not discussing those big international topics?
Well, I think he had to be very careful in discussing the China issue. The more he talked about it, the more publicity it would get again. And I think he'd probably rather that would go away because of the time period that he took to actually take action on it. Regarding other related issues, he didn't say a whole lot about Ukraine. He seemed to promise the moon to Ukraine, though. But of course, that means the Congress has to keep the promises. Whether they'll do that or not, we don't know. And finally, on the border crisis, which is kind of related to these, he said very little about the border crisis. So he treaded very lightly on foreign issues. And I think because his numbers on foreign affairs are rather shaky, so I think he wanted to avoid giving more publicity to that.
All right, Professor Mark Clausen of Cedarville University. Mark, thanks very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
All right, Sarah Huckabee Sanders just giving the rebuttal for the GOP. Sanders formerly served as White House press secretary during the Trump administration and is now the governor of Arkansas. During her speech, Governor Sanders countered the president, criticizing his administration's handling of the nation's economy.
In Washington, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, we will hold the Biden administration accountable.
Well, we've also been tracking all the responses to President Biden's address tonight. Lydia is here live in studio tonight. Lydia, what are you seeing on social media?
Well, Cincinnati's mayor took to Twitter recognizing Sarah Gwen May, who President Biden also recognized while talking about the Brent Spence Bridge. He describes her as a Cincinnati ironworker who represents the backbone of the nation with hard work and optimism while pursuing the American dream. U.S. Senator J.D. Vance also took to Twitter today saying he invited a family friend who lost a child to overdose while saying the border needs to be addressed to prevent more overdoses. Republican Representative Jim Jordan tweeted, "Layoffs surged in January. We're still seeing record inflation. Food and grocery prices remain high. Joe Biden's economy isn't working." And Democrat Ohio Representative Greg Landsman from Cincinnati discussed capping the cost of insulin for children. This after a 7th grader from Cincinnati with type 1 diabetes was invited to Washington, D.C. for the address. The president did mention that the price of insulin must be capped for children. We'll continue to monitor responses from political leaders and update you both on air and online. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Lydia. But did the president hit on everything people here in the Miami Valley wanted him to discuss? Mamie Ba spoke with people out in the community today about what they were hoping to hear. Mamie.
President Joe Biden said a lot tonight, but people are worried about the economy. They are thinking about inflation. It's top of mind. Goods are still at a price so many cannot afford. And with this being the last month of extra SNAP benefits, it's driving more people to local food pantries like With God's Grace.
We're seeing the breaking point. People that was coming to a pantry now is our middle class. It's not even the low class that's would have been off food insecure. We're seeing people that's working, that has good paying jobs.
With God's Grace tells me it's also struggling to keep up with the demand. So you have certain shelves that are empty. And also when it comes to donations, people are not donating as much as they used to. Back to you.
Well, quiet out there this evening, going to be a calm one for tomorrow, but that all changes as we head into our Thursday. Going to see some strong winds making their way into the Miami Valley. We have a high wind watch in place from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. on Thursday due to the potential for some damaging wind gusts. We're talking about 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts during the day on Thursday. That will bring that power outage potential as well as dangerous travel conditions, especially if you're in a high profile vehicle. It'll make it extra dangerous to drive as you're out on the roads during the day on Thursday. But for right now, we actually have some colder air sliding its way in. So calm conditions tonight, mostly calm as we head into the day tomorrow as well. 41 in Dayton, 30s off to the north. Heading through the rest of the evening, we will continue to see those temperatures fall into the lower 30s, eventually back up to around 50 degrees. But again, a quiet one for our Wednesday. I'll talk about our code red weather alert for our Thursday coming up here in just a bit.
Natalie, thanks. According to Dayton Children's Hospital, the number of those struggling with suicide ideation is increasing at an alarming rate, to the point that suicidal thoughts are the #1 reason the kids are being admitted to the hospital. Gwyneth Falloon spoke with experts and joins us now live. Gwen, how concerning did experts say these numbers are?
Megan, they said they're extremely concerning. To put things into perspective, Dayton Children's has 24 behavioral health beds, and then when those are full, they turn to other hospitals around the state. And then when that isn't an option, they're placed on a medical floor. Last February, Dayton Children's had over 150 kids waiting for a bed anywhere in Ohio. Kelly Blankenship with the Behavioral Health Department right here at Dayton Children's told me COVID and the effects of isolation are playing a huge role in why we're seeing such a spike, as well as social media bullying and seasonal affective disorder. According to the Dayton Children's Hospital, about 1 in 5 adolescents will have thoughts of suicide and have a plan. Behavioral health specialist Kelly Blankenship says over the last year and a half, the hospital has seen a drastic increase in the number of kids with suicide ideation.
We have a 24-bed behavioral health unit. In 2022. In the month of February, we actually had 178 kids waiting on a medical floor for a behavioral health bed, to find one behavioral health bed open in the whole state of Ohio.
Blankenship says the winter months are typically busier for 2 reasons: school and seasonal affective disorder.
You have less sunlight, it's gray, and also you have the school being in session. And school is a major stressor for kids.
However, Blankenship believes the biggest reason we are seeing such a spike is the COVID-19 pandemic.
We know that because kids had to social distance and couldn't be in schools and couldn't be around kids, they were using more social media. We know that social media bullying, that when that happens, that can be a risk factor for depression and anxiety.
Dayton Children's recommends parents to talk to their kids about both the good and the bad of social media. However, Blankenship says facilitating open conversation in general will increase the likelihood your child will come to you if they are struggling.
Ask your kids how they're feeling. Ask your kids how your day was and how their day is, and try not to ask closed-ended questions. So try not to ask, did you have a good day? Because a lot of kids are going to say yes, and then they're done. Then, it's, well, tell me what was good about your day. Asking open-ended questions so that they can't just say yes or no and stop speaking.
To help meet the growing need, Dayton Children's is expanding their behavioral health department. Their new building will have 48 beds, which is double what they currently have, and they're also expanding their crisis unit. They plan to open in about 2 years, hopefully in January of 2025. Now, if you're in need of help, you can also call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline by dialing 988. Back to you.
Gwen, thanks. An update from East Palestine following the train derailment there. The latest updates from officials at that scene next.
And it's been 24 years and Erica Baker is still missing tonight. After the break, we're going to hear from the new detective working the case and also Erica's father, who's never stopped looking for his daughter.
Plus, we have our code red weather alert for Thursday. I'll time it all out for you coming up. Here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Today marks 24 years since 9-year-old Erica Baker went missing. Her case gaining national attention through the Dayton 24/7 Now podcast, Missing Erica Baker. On this anniversary, Nathan Edwards talks with the new detective keeping this case open and her dad, who is still fighting to find her.
So what does it mean to be out here at Erica's grave 24 years after her disappearance?
Well, it's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, we know that, this is a symbol for her and her final resting place if we could ever bring her home.
Erica Baker's grave is both haunting and sweet. The granite headstone is etched with butterflies.
So that was something that she loved. That's why we went with the butterfly theme.
But as her dad Greg points out, it also reads missing. On February 7th, 1999, Erica put on her raincoat, leashed up her dog, and started to walk through a Kettering park. The 9-year-old was never seen again.
We all kind of know what happened, but there's always that 1 percentile where we don't know what happened, and that's the struggle right there.
2 decades later, Dayton 24/7 Now re-examining the case through our podcast, Missing Erica Baker. The 7-episode series revealing evidence that's never been publicly seen.
Right now we're in the impound lot with the van that detectives believe hit Erica Baker.
The van's driver, Christian Gabriel, is the prime suspect. He admitted to the crime, but never led investigators to her body. The podcast is gaining national attention, leading to new tips in the case and a new search location after our team discovered a clue hidden in Christian Gabriel's confession letter.
Every legitimate tip that hasn't been investigated will be investigated.
Kettering Detective Matt Wolf is the new man on Erica's case, taking over in January. He's only the 3rd lead detective to handle the investigation. His dad was the assistant chief of Kettering Police when Erica disappeared.
I mean, I've lived in this area my whole entire life. I don't remember another story like this.
Here in the evidence storage room, there are 3 full shelves of items related to the Erica Baker case. In fact, you can see right here 101 index cards detailing each item. Now, the detective on this case, Detective Wolf, wants to digitize all these items and the documents related to the case to preserve them for future generations.
I think it's going to be key to the case, because if you spend time doing things that have already been done, you're kind of wasting your time.
Detective Wolf is also keeping a close eye on the suspect, Christian Gabriel.
Anything you want to say to us?
No. Making sure he does not forget about Erica.
It's either going to be he comes clean and tells us where the body is, or someone, I believe, just totally accidentally finds her.
They're not closing the case, which is a very good thing.
Hope is all Greg Baker has. He prays one day he can etch out missing and properly lay his daughter to rest.
After all these years, you kind of get numb.
It seems exhausting.
It is. It is.
At David's Cemetery in Kettering, Nathan Edwards, Dayton 24/7 Now.
And you can listen to our Missing Erica Baker podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast. For all our coverage and exclusive web extras you'll only see on Dayton 24/7 Now, be sure to scan this QR code up on your screen right now. That'll take you right to our website, where you'll find everything all in one place.
Well, it's getting a little chillier out there. We have a cold front that has made its way through. It brought us some showers earlier into the day. Cloud cover still sticking around for us, but temperatures are falling. Heading into the overnight hours, it is going to get chilly, but then we'll start to warm up. Ahead of our next weather maker, which is bringing rainfall to parts of the south right now, this is going to be bringing us some intense winds as we head into our Thursday, as well as some rain, as well as some warmer weather too. So moving through tomorrow, a quiet one, waking up to 30s. We get up into the upper 40s for the afternoon. By tomorrow evening, rain begins to build in. So late Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, rain is expected. Some heavier areas of rain at times. Waking up to temperatures Thursday morning close to 60 degrees. The winds start to kick up as well. Perhaps some clearing as we look into the late morning hours, again with those very strong winds. And then we'll start to see colder air take over by our Thursday evening. I'm going to talk about those strong wind gusts, how strong they'll be, coming up in just a bit.
Natalie, thanks. Officials on the ground in East Palestine updating the public tonight on their efforts following the train derailment this weekend. That train derailed Friday, causing fear the hazardous material will cause an explosion. Yesterday, officials conducted a controlled release of the chemicals. Tyler Madden from our sister station has the latest from East Palestine.
The officials here on the ground that have been closely monitoring the scene in East Palestine say the next few hours will be crucial in moving forward. They did not want to speculate on a timeline of when residents may be able to return home, but say crews have been out all day collecting samples throughout the impacted areas and hope to get most of those back Tuesday night. Hazmat crews were also dispatched to collect those samples as well.
We have been air monitoring throughout the incident, and after the operation that took place by Norfolk Southern last night with the controlled burn, we've been able to safely move our crews largely within, as Peggy indicates, so we've been focusing largely on the air quality within that 1 mile evacuation zone. We've been doing that throughout the day and throughout the night, and we're going to process that data and give our recommendation to the incident commander in the morning.
Progress has also been made on the cleanup around the derailment site. There is one car left to remove from the rail. All other cars have been stacked out of the way, but still on site for review from the NTSB. And officials say there should be another update at some point on Wednesday when they hope to have a better grasp of that data. Reporting in East Palestine, I'm Tyler Madden.
Tyler, thank you. The death toll is now nearly 8,000 after a powerful earthquake devastated southern Turkey and neighboring Syria on Monday. Now, officials expect that number is going to continue to rise as search and rescue teams work to pull survivors from the debris. The magnitude 7.8 quake collapsed thousands of buildings. The World Health Organization says that up to 23 million people could be affected in the entire quake-hit area.
All right, a live look now from our Eco Plumber Skycam over downtown Dayton. Today, a pretty dreary day, hoping for a better day ahead tomorrow. I know some changes are coming.
Yeah, quiet tomorrow, a little bit on the warmer side for this time of the year. And then we're talking about just pretty wild day for Thursday. Winds are really going to be the big story.
Those sound crazy.
Yeah, it is going to be a windy one. We're talking about some strong wind gusts. In fact, dangerous wind gusts as we head into our day on Thursday. That's why we have our code red weather alert. So moving through time, it's going to be fairly calm during the day tomorrow, but heading into Thursday, take a look at Thursday morning, potentially some wind gusts up to around 50 miles per hour. And we'll continue these strong wind gusts as we head into our Thursday afternoon, 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, which could cause down trees, power lines as well. So power outages, they're looking pretty likely for our area on Thursday. I'll let you know how long that lasts. So look at our 7-day coming up here in just a bit.
Natalie, thanks. We're just 5 days away from the biggest game of the year, and security in Vegas is on high alert. Coming up, the steps they're taking to ensure a safe Super Bowl. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.